What if the mind you live with every day isn't fully yours? What if your memories, your instincts, even your sense of control are just fragments of a deeper system you barely understand? In this video, we'll explore 14 of the most mind-twisting mysteries from the frontiers of neuroscience, physics, consciousness, and beyond. From ancient technologies that seem too advanced to belong to history, to strange syndromes where your own body acts against your will, each topic blurs the lines between the known and the unknowable. These aren't just puzzles for scientists, they're cracks in the very foundation of reality. Because behind every familiar moment, there may be a hidden process, a secret mechanism, or an invisible truth playing out just beneath awareness. So stay with us as we dive deep into mysteries that don't just question the world but question you. The case of Clive, wearing some mysteries lie buried in the distant past, etched in stone, lost to time. Others unfold in the present, hidden deep within the human mind. In the 1980s, a brilliant British musician named Clive Wearing became the subject of one of the most extraordinary and perplexing neurological cases ever recorded. His condition didn't just challenge what we thought we knew about memory. It rewrote the boundaries of identity, time, and consciousness. Clive was a conductor, composer, and musicologist, a man whose life revolved around harmony, structure, and the subtle language of music. He had studied at prestigious institutions, conducted the BBC Radio Orchestra, and was considered among the finest minds in British classical music. But in 1985, a virus changed everything. Herpes simplex encephalitis, an extremely rare and aggressive brain infection, struck with little warning. It attacked his central nervous system, causing severe swelling in the brain. The regions most affected were the hippocampus and surrounding areas, key components responsible for forming and storing new memories. When Clive awoke, physically alive but mentally fragmented, doctors soon realized something was terribly wrong. He could remember who he was. He recognized his wife Deborah, often with overwhelming emotion. He could still play piano flawlessly and sight-read sheet music. His musical ability remained almost untouched, as if insulated from the damage. But his memory was gone. Clive Wearing became locked in what neurologists describe as the shortest memory span ever recorded. A window of only 7 to 30 seconds. Every moment was experienced as if for the first time. When asked, he had no recollection of having just spoken or moved. If he wrote in a journal, moments later he'd cross it out and write, "I am awake for the first time," again and again. Page after page. He lived in an eternal present. Every second was a new beginning. There was no continuity, no sense of the day's flow, no linear progression of time. Imagine waking up over and over again, forever, each moment without connection to the one before. And yet, not all memory had vanished. Clive retained what is called procedural memory, the memory of how to do things, such as playing the piano. He could still conduct music, play complex compositions, and harmonize notes with effortless grace. Somehow, the virus had spared his musical mind. It was as if music existed in a deeper, untouchable layer of consciousness, one that memory loss could not penetrate. His case offered scientists a rare opportunity to observe how memory works not as a single function, but as a system of different, overlapping processes. It revealed how deeply divided the brain's memory functions truly are. It confirmed the existence of procedural memory, semantic memory, and episodic memory as separate entities. But even with these insights, Clive's existence raised a more haunting question. If memory defines our identity, who are we without it? Decades later, Clive lives in a care facility in the UK. He still recognizes his wife when she visits. He still writes in his diary, and he still believes, with every passing moment, that he has just awakened for the first time. No virus erased his musical soul, but somewhere within him, the river of time has stopped flowing, its current replaced by a single, unending ripple. Perhaps the greatest mystery in Clive Wearing's case is not what was lost, but what still remains. The 1518 dancing plague. In the sweltering summer of 1518, the streets of Strasbourg echoed with the sound of footsteps, not of marching soldiers or festival crowds, but of townspeople dancing uncontrollably. What began with a single woman stepping into the street and moving to a rhythm only she could hear would soon escalate into one of the strangest public health mysteries in recorded history. Frau Trophia, as she came to be known, started dancing in mid-July. Witnesses described her movements as frantic, continuous, and mechanical. She showed no signs of joy or celebration. There was no music, no partner, just an eerie, solitary compulsion. Within days, dozens joined her. Within weeks, the number reached over 400. Strasbourg's authorities, baffled and alarmed, consulted physicians who, under the prevailing medical theories of the time, attributed the dancing to hot blood or excessive internal heat. Their solution was more dancing. They opened up public halls, hired musicians, and encouraged the afflicted to dance it out. But this only made things worse. Some danced for days without pause. Legs blistered, feet bled, bodies collapsed from exhaustion. A number of participants died, though estimates vary, reportedly from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer fatigue. Still, the dancing continued, as if some invisible force held the victims in its grip. Modern historians and scientists have long debated the nature of this bizarre event. Some suggest it was a case of mass hysteria, an outbreak of psychogenic illness driven by stress, fear, and hardship. The region had indeed been suffering. Recent famines, disease outbreaks, and harsh political conditions had left the population anxious and spiritually vulnerable. Others point to ergot poisoning, a toxic fungus that grows on damp rye and can induce hallucinations and convulsions, not unlike LSD. But the consistency and coordination of the dancing, along with the lack of widespread hallucination reports, make this theory incomplete. Then there's the possibility of religious or supernatural belief systems fueling the episode. Medieval Europe was steeped in fears of divine punishment, saints' wrath, and demonic influence. Some scholars believe the dancers may have been gripped by a form of ritualistic mania, linked to the cult of Saint Vitus, a figure often invoked to ward off dancing plagues. Ironically, invoking his name may have amplified the affliction. There were other, smaller outbreaks of dancing mania reported across medieval Europe, particularly in Germany and the Low Countries. But none matched the scale or intensity of the Strasbourg episode. Nor did any leave behind such a deep historical footprint. The dancing eventually subsided. By early September, the afflicted dwindled. Many were taken to a mountain shrine, where priests prayed over them, offered holy water, and burned incense. The city grew quiet once again. And yet, the mystery remains. Why did so many dance to their own destruction? Was it disease, hysteria, spiritual ecstasy, or something else entirely? Centuries later, we're still left with more questions than answers. No single theory fully explains the scope, scale, and psychological depth of the event. And in that gap of understanding, the legend of the 1518 dancing plague continues to live silent, unsolved, and just as haunting as the day it began. Because sometimes history doesn't march forward, it dances. And when it does, not even science can keep the rhythm. The Billy Milligan case, some minds fracture not from trauma alone, but from something deeper, more elusive, and in the case of Billy Milligan, the fragments spoke, acted, and remembered things he never could. In the late 1970s, Ohio police arrested a man named William Stanley Milligan in connection with a string of violent crimes, including robbery, abduction, and sexual assault. At first glance, he appeared like any other suspect, troubled, evasive, and possibly deceptive. But what followed would upend the legal and psychological landscapes in ways no one could have predicted. As investigators dug deeper, they noticed inconsistencies. Eyewitness descriptions varied dramatically, handwriting samples didn't match, and most disturbing of all, the suspect himself seemed to morph from one personality to another. It wasn't an act. Milligan wasn't pretending. Psychological evaluations soon revealed something extraordinary. He wasn't alone in his own mind. Billy Milligan, it turned out, was diagnosed with what is now known as dissociative identity disorder (DID). At the time, it was a rare and controversial diagnosis, and Billy's case would become the first in U.S. history where a defendant was found not guilty by reason of insanity due to multiple personalities. Psychologists identified 10 distinct personalities initially. each with their own accents, handwriting, skills, and memories. There was Arthur, the sophisticated Englishman with a deep knowledge of science and medicine. Regan Vatiskovich, a Yugoslav who spoke with a Slavic accent and possessed combat skills. Adalana, a shy, 19-year-old lesbian who confessed to the crimes that had landed Billy in prison. And then there were others ranging from a 3-year-old child to a manipulative con artist. Later, the count would rise to 24, including a mysterious figure known as the Teacher, said to be a fusion of all the others. Medical professionals at the time were divided. Some believed Billy's condition was genuine, an extreme reaction to the sustained abuse he suffered as a child, particularly at the hands of his stepfather. Others argued that he was highly intelligent and manipulative, using the disorder as a means of evading accountability. After all, could someone really have no memory of crimes they physically committed? Could one personality be guilty while the others remained innocent? Billy spent years in various psychiatric hospitals rather than prison. During that time, he was the subject of numerous studies, media reports, and a best-selling book. And yet, for all the attention, the fundamental question remained unresolved. Where does personal identity begin and end when the mind itself is not a singular entity? By the 1980s and 90s, public fascination with Milligan waned, but his legacy lived on both in psychological literature and legal theory. He faded into obscurity in later life, eventually dying of cancer in 2014. What makes the Billy Milligan case so enduring isn't simply the number of personalities or the crimes involved, it's the way it forced both experts and the public to confront uncomfortable truths. If the mind can divide so completely, then how much control do we really have over who we are? Perhaps the deepest mystery is not about whether Billy Milligan was faking it, but what it reveals about the hidden architecture of the human mind. The man who forgot everything. Somewhere between memory and identity lies a fragile thread, and when it snaps, a person can vanish, even if their body remains. In 1953, a man named Henry Molaison underwent a radical brain operation that would alter the course of neuroscience forever. Before the surgery, Henry suffered from devastating epileptic seizures, multiple times a day. Doctors, desperate for a solution, made a bold decision: remove parts of his medial temporal lobes, including a region called the hippocampus believed to be the origin point of the seizures. The surgery was considered a success. The seizures subsided, but something else vanished with them. When Henry awoke, he seemed intact. He could carry on a conversation. His intelligence was preserved, his personality familiar, but beneath the surface, something profound had changed. Henry had lost the ability to form new memories. Every experience, every conversation, every face he encountered vanished from his awareness within moments. He became trapped in a continuous present. Researchers were stunned. Here was a man who could remember the details of his childhood, who knew who he was and where he had come from but could not recall what he had done 5 minutes ago. He could not recognize the doctors who studied him every day. He lived in a loop, politely reintroducing himself to the same people again and again, unaware he had met them just hours earlier. To the world, he became known simply as Patient HM. Over the next 5 decades, HM became the most studied individual in the history of brain science. Through him, researchers made revolutionary discoveries: that memory is not a single function, but a system of specialized components; that the hippocampus is essential for converting short-term memories into long-term ones; and that procedural memory, like learning a motor skill, can remain intact even when episodic memory is obliterated. For example, scientists taught HM to draw a shape while looking at its reflection in a mirror, a task that is awkward at first but improves with practice. Astonishingly, although he had no recollection of ever attempting the task before, his performance improved each day. His hands remembered what his mind could not. His case reshaped our understanding of memory, consciousness, and the brain itself. Yet behind the scientific data lies something more fragile. A man who could not remember birthdays, love, laughter, or grief. A man who, for all the brilliance he inspired, never knew he had become a cornerstone of neuroscience. He could not reflect on his own importance. He could not remember the day before. When Henry Molaison died in 2008, his brain was carefully preserved, sectioned into over 2,400 slices for ongoing research. Even in death, he continued to contribute to science. But the mystery endures. What is memory, if not the very fabric of our reality? Who are we without the stories we tell ourselves? Henry knew who he had been, but not who he was becoming. And in that forgotten silence, he left us with a question that science still cannot answer. If a man forgets everything, does he remain the same person? The man who forgot everything, there's a limit to what the human mind can hold in the present moment, a boundary so precise. It's defined by a single number, 7. This phenomenon, known as the magic number 7, has puzzled psychologists for decades. It suggests that most people can only hold around 7 items in their short-term memory, give or take 2. Whether it's digits, letters, or simple words, this mysterious boundary seems to emerge across languages, cultures, and contexts. But is it truly a universal mental limit or just the beginning of something deeper? The theory was introduced in 1956 by American cognitive psychologist George A. Miller, who published a paper titled The Magical Number 7, Plus or Minus 2. In it, he proposed that the average person can manage 5 to 9 chunks of information at one time. That number seemed to appear repeatedly in memory span tests, phone number lengths, and even random digit recall experiments. It was as though the human brain had a built-in bottleneck, silently shaping how we interact with the world. But why 7? Why not 4 or 15? The answer might lie in how our working memory processes data. Rather than remembering isolated details, the brain breaks information into chunks, small, meaningful units. For example, remembering the sequence 1, 4, 9, 2, as the year 1492 compresses 4 digits into one recognizable event. The more meaningful the pattern, the fewer chunks we need. But without such structure, we hit the wall quickly. Neuroscientists have attempted to trace this limit to the prefrontal cortex, the region associated with planning and attention. Brain imaging studies reveal that this area becomes increasingly overloaded as more chunks are added. After a point, accuracy drops sharply. The brain simply can't juggle more without losing something along the way. Interestingly, this rule of 7 even influences design in the modern world. Phone numbers in many countries are 7 digits long, not by accident, but because that's roughly what people can remember without error. Password requirements, product IDs, and even user interface layouts often subtly reflect this mental boundary. Yet not all research agrees. Some psychologists argue that 4 may be a more accurate working memory limit, especially when the material is unfamiliar. Others suggest that with training, expertise, or emotional significance, the brain can stretch far beyond 7. Chess masters, for instance, can recall complex board positions far exceeding that number, but only within the domain they've mastered. This has sparked a broader debate. Is the magic number 7 truly a rule of human cognition, or just a statistical average rooted in limited testing environments? And if so, what does it say about the structure and the potential of human thought? Perhaps the real mystery is not the number itself, but what lies just beyond it. Because if the mind is built to hold only 7 ideas at once, what happens to the 8th? Ethical amnesia. Some memories fade with time. Others are erased intentionally, silently, and sometimes institutionally. Across the pages of history and psychology lies a strange and unsettling phenomenon. Ethical amnesia, the forgetting, suppression, or reframing of morally troubling actions. It doesn't always happen by accident. Sometimes, it's woven into the very fabric of our individual and collective consciousness. The term may sound abstract, but its fingerprints are everywhere. In psychology, ethical amnesia describes the mental disconnection between one's past unethical behavior and their current moral self-image. A person lies, cheats, or harms, but later genuinely recalls events differently, minimizing their role or erasing the wrongdoing entirely. Not out of deceit, but because the mind itself reshaped the memory to protect the ego. Studies conducted in controlled settings have demonstrated how easily this occurs. Participants instructed to cheat in an experimental scenario often failed to accurately recall their behavior just a week later. When asked, they downplayed or denied the actions altogether despite evidence proving otherwise. Researchers believe the brain uses this self-protective erasure to maintain a consistent moral identity, even when actions betray it. But ethical amnesia isn't confined to individuals. It's a collective phenomenon as well, visible in nations, institutions, even entire cultures. Consider wartime atrocities that are later omitted from textbooks, or corporate wrongdoing that quietly disappears from internal records. What isn't remembered isn't discussed, and what isn't discussed avoids accountability. Historical examples abound. Government programs that tested harmful substances on citizens without consent. Scientific breakthroughs built on ethically dubious experiments. Colonial campaigns remembered for their progress but not their devastation. Over time, stories are softened. Documents vanish. Language is rewritten. The result: entire societies forgetting the darker chapters of their own making. Modern neuroscience offers a few clues. Memory isn't a fixed archive, it's malleable, reconstructed each time it's recalled. Emotional discomfort, guilt, or trauma can prompt the brain to alter or suppress memories that clash with a person's moral narrative. This process isn't always conscious. In many cases, people truly believe the sanitized versions of their past. And therein lies the danger. When ethical lapses go unremembered, they go unchallenged. And when they go unchallenged, they risk repetition. Even more intriguing is how easily ethical amnesia spreads. When leaders downplay misdeeds, followers often mirror that memory. When media omits key facts, audiences forget to question. Memory becomes a social construct, vulnerable to omission, suggestion, and silence. And so, we're left with questions more unsettling than answers. How many of our convictions are based on altered memories? How much of history is remembered not as it was, but as we need it to be? Ethical amnesia reminds us that forgetting isn't always a passive act. Sometimes it's a survival instinct, sometimes it's cultural, and sometimes it's dangerously convenient. The truth may still exist buried in archives, hidden in data, locked in someone's fading recollection. But whether we choose to remember is a mystery of its own. Mood memory links. Some memories return not with logic but with a feeling. It's an experience we've all had. A sudden rush of sadness when hearing a certain melody, or an overwhelming sense of joy sparked by a specific scent. These moments appear from nowhere, unbidden, emotional, and precise. This phenomenon is known as the mood memory link, and it raises a fundamental question. Does emotion decide what we remember and when we remember it? Psychologists have studied this link for decades, tracing it back to what's known as state-dependent memory. The principle is simple. The mood you're in while forming a memory can become a key to unlocking it later. In laboratory settings, subjects who learn information while happy are more likely to recall it when they're happy again. Likewise, those who learn during sadness tend to remember more clearly when in that same emotional state. It's as though our emotions act like invisible bookmarks, marking not just what happened, but how we felt when it did. This link becomes even more powerful when paired with sensory triggers. The smell of a loved one's perfume, the color of a hospital curtain, or the echo of a long-forgotten lullaby can retrieve entire memory sequences rich in detail, laden with emotion, and yet inaccessible moments before. These are not general associations. They are vivid, highly specific, and often accompanied by physical responses. Racing heartbeats, tears, or stillness. But the phenomenon doesn't end with nostalgia or sentiment. The mood-memory connection plays a central role in conditions like PTSD and depression. In such cases, a negative emotional state can reinforce traumatic memories, making them more vivid and persistent. This feedback loop is one reason why it's so difficult to move on from emotional trauma. The brain literally prioritizes emotional memories over neutral ones, and in states of anxiety or fear, even unrelated past events can resurface colored by the emotional lens through which they were first encoded. On a neurological level, this process is far from random. When we form emotionally intense memories, the amygdala, the brain's emotional processor, activates and enhances the function of the hippocampus, which stores long-term memories. The stronger the emotional signal, the more deeply the memory is etched into the brain. That's why emotionally neutral events are easier to forget, and why moments of joy, terror, or grief often feel as if they happened yesterday, no matter how much time has passed. Yet there's an unexplained dimension to this puzzle. Not all emotional states activate memory equally. Some people can recall details only under specific emotional conditions. Others experience memories that never seem to return unless triggered by a dream, a sound, or a mood they haven't felt in years. And in rare cases, memories return with such intensity that they feel more real than the present moment. Some researchers believe this hints at a deeper connection between emotion and consciousness itself, one not yet fully mapped. Is memory merely data retrieved from storage? Or is it an emotional echo, summoned by something beyond logic? The mood-memory link continues to fascinate scientists, therapists, and philosophers alike. Its mechanics are partly understood, but its depths remain largely uncharted. Why do some feelings open locked doors in the mind, while others lead us into darkness? And more importantly, what else might we remember when the right mood finally returns? The curious case of little Albert. Some mysteries don't lie buried beneath ancient ruins or hidden in the vastness of the cosmos. Some are born in sterile laboratories, in the quiet corners of human psychology, and leave behind questions science still hasn't fully answered. One such enigma is the curious case of little Albert. In 1920, inside the halls of Johns Hopkins University, two psychologists, John B. Watson and Rosalie Rayner, set out to explore the boundaries of human behavior. Their goal, to prove that fear could be conditioned, just like any other response. The subject of their controversial experiment was a healthy, 9-month-old infant known only as Albert B. Initially, Albert was exposed to various animals: a white rat, a rabbit, a monkey, and even inanimate objects like masks and burning newspapers. He showed no signs of fear. But then, the researchers introduced something new. Each time Albert reached for the white rat, they struck a steel bar with a hammer behind his head. The sudden, sharp noise startled the child, making him cry. This process was repeated multiple times. And soon, Albert began to associate the once innocent white rat with the terrifying sound. Even when no noise followed, the mere sight of the rat made him recoil in fear. More strikingly, his fear extended to similar stimuli: rabbits, dogs, fur coats. What Watson and Rayner observed was not just a conditioned response, but a phenomenon called stimulus generalization. It was one of the earliest demonstrations of classical conditioning in humans, and it sent ripples through the psychological world. But while the experiment became famous, what happened to little Albert afterward became one of psychology's greatest cold cases. Watson and Rayner never deconditioned Albert's fear. They moved on. His real identity was kept secret. For decades, psychologists, historians, and ethicists puzzled over a simple question: who was little Albert? In the early 2000s, a team of researchers led by psychologist Hall Beck believed they had solved the mystery. They claimed that little Albert was a child named Douglas Merritt, the son of a wet nurse who worked at the university hospital. But their investigation revealed troubling information. Douglas had suffered from hydrocephalus, a neurological condition that affects brain development. He died at the age of 6. If true, this revelation complicated the legacy of the experiment. Had Watson knowingly used a neurologically impaired child for behavioral research? And if so, what does that say about the ethics behind one of psychology's most famous studies? Yet, the identification remains disputed. Others suggest that Douglas was not Albert at all, that the real child may have lived a full life under another name, his experience forgotten, his identity still hidden. The little Albert experiment continues to be taught in classrooms, often as a landmark in behavioral psychology, but also as a cautionary tale about ethics, informed consent, and the responsibility of science toward its subjects. A simple demonstration of fear became something far more haunting. Because the real mystery isn't just how fear can be learned, it's how a single child, used in the name of science, could vanish into history, leaving behind nothing but questions. And perhaps, somewhere in the folds of forgotten records, the truth still waits along with the name and the story of the boy we still call little Albert. The locked room syndrome. Some minds become prisons, not of imagination, but of something far more confounding: awareness sealed behind walls of silence, with no visible key. This is the world of the locked room syndrome, where a person remains fully conscious but entirely cut off from expression. The term may sound metaphorical, but its reality is deeply clinical. Known medically as locked-in syndrome, LIS. This condition describes individuals who are awake and mentally alert but cannot move or speak due to complete paralysis of nearly all voluntary muscles. Only their eyes, or sometimes just a single eyelid, remain as their only means of interaction with the world. First recognized in scientific literature in the 1940s and popularized after the 2007 memoir The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, the condition forces us to confront some of the most disturbing questions in neuroscience. What does it mean to be aware but voiceless? Present, but presumed absent? Locked-in syndrome is most often caused by damage to the brainstem, particularly the pons, which acts as a vital relay between the brain and body. A stroke, traumatic brain injury, or neurological disease like ALS can sever that connection without damaging the higher brain functions responsible for thought, emotion, and memory. The result is a paradox. A fully functioning mind imprisoned inside a still and silent body. In the 1990s, researchers began using advanced brain imaging techniques to study patients diagnosed with LIS. In some cases, these individuals were initially thought to be in comas or vegetative states until subtle eye movements revealed a startling truth. They were awake, observing, remembering, waiting. One such case, a Belgian man named Hauben, became the center of international debate in 2009. After a car accident left him paralyzed for 23 years, new testing revealed he had been conscious the entire time, misdiagnosed for over 2 decades. His story reignited global interest in the phenomenon and raised a haunting question. How many others are simply unable to show they are still here? To communicate, patients often use painstaking systems involving eye tracking or blinking, spelling out letters one by one. In recent years, scientists have explored brain-computer interfaces, devices that translate electrical activity from the brain directly into text or speech. Though still experimental, these technologies offer a glimmer of liberation for minds long trapped in silence. Yet, for all we've discovered, locked-in syndrome remains as much a psychological mystery as it is a neurological one. Why do some patients retain fragments of movement, a finger, a blink, while others remain entirely immobile? What internal coping mechanisms allow consciousness to endure day after day in isolation? And perhaps most unsettling, how many have we misjudged? Their awareness invisible behind unresponsive eyes? Today, physicians emphasize the need for rigorous testing before declaring a person unconscious. Multimodal imaging, eye response assessments, and even auditory brain response scans have become tools of ethical necessity. Because the alternative, assuming absence where there is presence, is no longer acceptable. Still, the syndrome challenges our most basic assumptions about life and awareness. It forces us to ask whether consciousness must always be visible to be real, or whether there are forms of presence that cannot yet be measured. Because somewhere, behind a motionless face, a voice may still be speaking unheard, but not unspoken. Shared dream phenomena. Some dreams leave us questioning our own minds. But what happens when 2 people have the same dream on the same night? This is the enigma of shared dream phenomena, a curious psychological and perhaps metaphysical occurrence where multiple individuals claim to experience strikingly similar dreams, often in real time. These aren't vague impressions or symbolic overlaps. In some cases, the details, the location, dialogue, even actions are eerily identical. And yet, mainstream science remains cautious, even skeptical of the implications. Reports of shared dreams aren't a modern invention. Indigenous cultures across Africa, Australia, and the Americas have long spoken of communal dreaming. The Aboriginal concept of the dream time refers not only to ancestral stories, but also to a state where dreamers enter a shared spiritual realm. In Central and South America, shamans have described rituals that induce group dreaming for healing or prophecy. In more recent history, scattered case studies have emerged with unsettling consistency. In one documented account from the 1980s, 2 sisters living in separate cities claimed to visit the same dream landscape, a massive stone hallway lit by torches over multiple nights. Each would wake with matching details, including a name carved into the stone wall neither recognized. Dream researchers often categorize such experiences under mutual dreaming, a subtopic rarely studied due to its elusive nature. Skeptics argue these events may be explained by coincidence, suggestibility, or post-sleep memory alignment, where participants unintentionally modify their recollections to match a story told afterward. However, some cases challenge these explanations. In a university lab experiment in the early 2000s, researchers in California attempted to induce mutual dreaming by pairing close friends in sleep chambers and prompting them with similar stimuli before rest. Most results were inconclusive, but a few sessions revealed compelling overlaps in imagery and emotional tone too specific, some claimed, to dismiss as chance. Psychologically, shared dreams may reflect deep emotional bonds. Twins, couples, or lifelong friends have higher incidences of these experiences. Some neuropsychologists suggest that mirror neurons, emotional attunement, and synchronized circadian rhythms could play subtle roles in creating parallel dream structures. But there are still the outlier strangers who never met, reporting identical dreams on the same night across the world, connected only by online forums. These dream threads, posted without context or prompt, often describe identical dreamscapes, forests of black trees, giant mechanical cities, or looming shadow figures appearing across dozens of accounts. Science has yet to identify a mechanism that could allow consciousness to extend beyond the individual mind during sleep. But a small group of physicists and consciousness researchers speculate about non-local awareness, an idea suggesting the mind might operate partly outside the brain. It's a controversial view, but one that aligns, intriguingly, with some shared dream experiences. For now, the phenomenon hovers in the gray space between anecdote and anomaly. Not proven, yet persistent. Not understood, yet impossible to ignore. So the next time you drift into a strange and vivid dream, pause before dismissing it as fantasy. Someone else, somewhere, may have seen the same hallway, may have spoken the same words, may be waking up right now with the same question lingering at the edge of their memory. Who else was dreaming with me? Early onset language savants. Some children speak their first words at 1 year old, others wait longer. But then there are the rare few cases so unusual they leave even seasoned neurologists puzzled. Infants who, without formal instruction, begin speaking multiple languages fluently. Toddlers who decode syntax, grammar, and pronunciation as if guided by something far beyond education or exposure. These are the early onset language savants, enigmatic individuals whose abilities seem to defy developmental norms and scientific explanation. The term language savant refers to someone with extraordinary linguistic ability, often paired paradoxically with other cognitive or developmental impairments. While adult polyglots and hyperpolyglots can be explained through practice, exposure, and perhaps genetic predisposition, early onset savants appear to be wired differently from birth. Their brains engage with language in a way that remains deeply mysterious. One of the most frequently cited cases is Christopher, a British man diagnosed with severe intellectual disability. While he struggled with daily tasks and abstract thinking, Christopher astonished researchers by learning over 20 languages, many of which he taught himself. His case, studied in detail by Neil Smith and Ianthe Maria Simply in the 1990s, showed that despite severe limitations in nonverbal reasoning, his command of linguistic structure was on par with that of trained linguists. But what made Christopher especially intriguing was how young his abilities began to emerge well before the age of formal schooling. Then there's the case of a young American boy referred to only as JT in medical literature. By the age of 2, he was constructing grammatically complex sentences in English and Spanish. By 5, he had added French, Italian, and even basic Japanese. When brain scans were conducted, they revealed an unusually high level of activity in the left temporal lobe, an area associated with language processing. Yet, despite this, JT was socially withdrawn and exhibited traits consistent with autism spectrum disorder. Neurologically, what sets these individuals apart? One theory centers on neural plasticity. In most people, language acquisition slows after the so-called critical period, typically around age 7. But in early language savants, brain connectivity remains unusually flexible, allowing for a kind of linguistic absorption that bypasses standard cognitive filters. Some researchers even speculate that their brains may be compensating, diverting developmental energy into language as a form of adaptation or neurological imbalance. There's also speculation about genetic factors. In some documented cases, savant children were born to multilingual parents, while others had no exposure to foreign languages at all. In rare instances, these children appear to access linguistic systems they were never directly taught, sparking debate over whether some form of ancestral or genetic memory could be at play, though such claims remain unverified and controversial. Despite the fascination surrounding these cases, early onset language savants remain incredibly rare. Fewer than 100 have been rigorously documented worldwide, and each case raises more questions than it answers. Why does one area of the brain flourish while others fall behind? Can these skills be nurtured, or are they purely spontaneous, the result of a unique biological configuration? In the end, the phenomenon touches on a deeper question: what exactly is language, and how does the mind truly grasp it? For now, these prodigious children remain like windows into a deeper, hidden architecture of the brain, a structure we can observe, but have yet to truly understand. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about early language savants is not just what they can say, but what their silence about the rest of the mind might be telling us. Psychological reversal in the intricate maze of the human mind. Not all paths lead forward. Some twist backward, quietly defying logic, science, and even our will to heal. This paradox is known as psychological reversal, a subtle, often invisible force where the mind unconsciously resists positive change, even when that change is desperately needed. First introduced by psychologist Dr. Roger Callahan during his work in energy psychology, psychological reversal isn't a formal psychiatric diagnosis, yet its fingerprints appear across countless cases of stalled therapy, self-sabotage, and inexplicable failure. Patients doing everything right, taking medication, attending therapy, practicing healthy habits sometimes fail to improve. Not because they lack motivation, but because something deeper within them quietly refuses alignment. Imagine a person battling depression who deeply wants to recover, yet continues to miss appointments, resist medication, or unconsciously repeat destructive patterns. Conventional psychiatry might attribute this to non-compliance, laziness, or lack of insight. But what if it's something more, something rooted not in conscious thought, but in the subconscious energy of the individual? Callahan proposed that psychological reversal stems from a polarity disruption, a subtle reversal of the body's energy system, like a battery connected the wrong way. When this reversal occurs, he claimed, the body resists beneficial input and instead gravitates toward continued dysfunction. The implications of this are profound. It suggests that some mental blocks are not cognitive or emotional alone, but energetic, operating beneath language, memory, and rationality. Although the scientific community remains divided, researchers in fields like kinesiology, neurology, and trauma therapy have begun noticing something eerily similar. Cases where no amount of cognitive restructuring, exposure therapy, or medication seems to create movement until the patient acknowledges, confronts, or resolves some unconscious internal conflict. A trauma survivor, for instance, may consciously want peace, yet subconsciously feel undeserving of it. In these moments, progress halts, not because the tools are wrong, but because the internal permission to heal has not yet been granted. Even in broader behavior patterns like chronic procrastination, recurring relationship failures, or the sabotage of long-awaited success, the echo of psychological reversal can sometimes be heard. Not as a disorder, but as a dynamic, an unseen tug-of-war between the mind's desire and the body's resistance. Modern therapeutic approaches such as EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, energy tapping, and somatic therapy occasionally allude to this concept, acknowledging that healing is not just mental, but also physiological and emotional. Some practitioners even include reversal checks as part of their process, simple procedures meant to detect internal blocks before deeper interventions begin. But despite anecdotal successes and compelling clinical observations, psychological reversal remains largely undocumented in mainstream science. It straddles the uncomfortable line between psychology and pseudoscience, where empirical evidence thins and subjective experience dominates. Is it a real phenomenon, a metaphor for inner resistance, or simply a misinterpretation of deeper psychological complexity? Perhaps the most unsettling part of this mystery is its familiarity. Who among us hasn't sabotaged their own progress at some point? Who hasn't, despite knowing better, done the opposite? In the end, psychological reversal raises an unnerving question. What if the greatest obstacle to healing isn't the trauma, the illness, or the diagnosis, but something within us that, silently and invisibly, says no? And until we can locate that voice, we may never know what more the mind is capable of resisting or becoming. Brain replay during rest. Somewhere between wakefulness and sleep, your brain is hard at work silently replaying moments from your day. But why? In neuroscience labs across the world, a quiet revolution is underway, one that challenges everything we thought we knew about memory, learning, and the so-called stillness of rest. It begins with a peculiar discovery inside the hippocampus, the brain's memory center, where neurons were observed firing in precise sequences during activity only to fire again, in the exact same pattern, hours later while the subject was at rest. This phenomenon, known as brain replay, was first documented in the 1990s during experiments on rats navigating mazes. Researchers noticed that after a rat explored a maze, its hippocampal neurons continued to echo the same navigational sequence during periods of rest, almost as if the brain were rewinding and replaying the tape. But this wasn't just a passive playback. These replays occurred in accelerated bursts, often compressed into a fraction of the original experience. And they didn't happen randomly. They appeared during sharp wave ripples, brief, high-frequency brain waves thought to play a critical role in memory consolidation. As scientists probed deeper, human studies began to mirror the same pattern. During rest or non-REM sleep, fMRI scans revealed that our brains seemed to revisit recent experiences, flashes of faces, places, and events, sometimes even those we barely noticed during waking hours. The implications are staggering. Our minds may be curating reality, selecting what to keep and what to discard, not while we're consciously thinking, but when we're idle, silent, and unaware. In 2016, researchers at MIT showed that when specific replay patterns were disrupted in mice, they failed to remember what they had learned, suggesting these neural replays are essential for memory retention. In another study, people who took breaks during learning, particularly quiet, restful ones, demonstrated improved recall, as if rest had allowed the brain to cement what it had just absorbed. But here's where the mystery deepens. Some replays aren't exact copies of past experiences. They appear in reverse or include fragments of unrelated memories, suggesting the brain may not simply be reinforcing memory, but actively restructuring it. Could this be the root of creativity, daydreaming, even déjà vu? Then there's the question of agency. If the brain replays experiences during rest without our conscious direction, what else might it be doing? Is it creating simulations? Practicing outcomes? Could this subconscious rehearsal explain sudden insights or gut feelings we wake up with? Even more intriguingly, artificial intelligence researchers have started incorporating similar replay functions into machine learning algorithms. In reinforcement learning models, virtual agents use replay to solidify learning, mirroring the way biological brains seem to function. It's as if our brains have been running simulations all along, quietly, beneath our awareness. We are just beginning to uncover how the idle brain isn't idle at all. In the stillness of rest, entire neural worlds are at play, reviewing, reshuffling, rewriting. What we experience may only be the surface of what the brain is actually processing. And so, the next time you sit in silence, stare out a window, or drift into sleep, remember, your brain may be telling itself a story you've already lived, but in a way you've never truly known. What else might it be rehearsing that you haven't experienced yet? Alien hand syndrome. Some mysteries of the mind don't lurk in shadows or ancient ruins, they unfold in plain sight, within the very body we call our own. Alien hand syndrome is a rare neurological condition that defies our fundamental understanding of control. A person affected by it finds that one of their hands acts on its own, grasping, reaching, or interfering seemingly with a will independent of the person's conscious intent. Imagine watching your own hand button your shirt only to unbutton it seconds later, all without your consent. First described in the 1900s and named formally in the mid-20th century, alien hand syndrome has surfaced in patients who've undergone brain surgery, suffered a stroke, or experienced trauma to the corpus callosum, the thick bundle of nerves that allows the left and right hemispheres of the brain to communicate. In the absence of this neural bridge, each hemisphere can begin operating in isolation. This disconnect can lead to startling behaviors. In classic cases involving damage to the corpus callosum or frontal lobes, The alien hand often belongs to the left, controlled by the brain's right hemisphere, which may act on primal impulses or spatial tasks, unfiltered by the more verbal and rational left side. One patient attempted to make a cup of tea with her right hand while her left kept pushing the cup away. Another tried to open a closet door, only to have the other hand slam it shut. In some extreme cases, the alien hand has been reported to strike its owner, leaving the individual in a state of fear, confusion, and deep psychological distress. What makes this syndrome so baffling is not only the involuntary motion, but the eerie sense of separation. Patients often describe the limb as having its own mind. They refer to it in the third person. It is not me, they insist, though it is undeniably part of them. The condition has appeared in stroke survivors, Alzheimer's patients, and most notably in individuals undergoing brain surgery to treat epilepsy, where the hemispheres are surgically severed to prevent seizures from spreading. Despite its dramatic symptoms, alien hand syndrome is incredibly rare. Only a few dozen cases have been well documented worldwide. And while it's sometimes confused with tremors or other movement disorders, its defining feature remains the lack of subjective ownership. The limb is not just moving on its own, it's perceived as not mine. Scientists believe the mystery lies deep in the complex layers of motor intention and bodily awareness. Normally, when we move a hand, our brain sends signals that both execute the motion and generate the internal feeling. I did this. In alien hand syndrome, that second loop appears broken. The action occurs, but without the inner echo of ownership. Treatment is limited. Some patients learn to manage the rogue limb by giving it something to hold or distract it with purposeful motion. Others rely on visual cues or therapy, but there is no known cure, only coping strategies. Alien hand syndrome challenges our most intimate assumptions about free will, selfhood, and the unity of the mind. If one hand can rebel, what does that say about the illusion of control we think we possess? And if the brain can divide so completely, what else, we might wonder, lies hidden between its hemispheres waiting to awaken?